Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I want to show you how to make 7 different cards out of one 12 by 12 piece of designer paper. And we are going to focus on also using just one particular stamp set to do that. It is called the Painted Petals stamp set, and it is in the Stampin' Up! Spring catalog. It's just a gorgeous set. So let me show you how to make these 7 beautiful cards with one stamp set and one 12 by 12 piece of designer paper. So to get started, we are going to first cut our paper. So let's get started. Now there's a variety of different ways that you can cut a 12 by 12 piece of designer paper. So this is the designer paper we're going to use, and it is Pear Pizzazz in color, in case you're wondering what the color is. I'm going to just show you one way that you can cut it, and this is probably the easiest way to cut it. What we're going to do is slide the paper into our cutter, and we're going to cut, since it's 12 by 12, we're going to cut 4-inch strips. We're going to cut 3 of them. So there's one, and here are the other 2. Then you're going to take each of the strips and you're going to cut them. You're going to cut 2 5 1/4 pieces off of each strip. I'll show you that. So line it up at 5 1/4. So each piece is 5 1/4 by 4. So we're going to get 2 off of this strip. So here's the other one. And then you'll be left with this little piece, which we will also use to make one of the 7 cards. And this piece is 1 1/2 inches by 4. So we'll just kind of set that to the side. And then I'm just going to do the exact same thing with the other pieces. They're going to be at 5 1/4. And then I have my little 1 1/2 inch strip. And then the last one, I'm going to do the same thing. So I have 5 1/4 and 5 1/4. So you're going to end up with, let me just move this cutter out of the way. You're going to end up with 6 different pieces of paper here that are all the same size, 5 1/4 by 4. And then you're also going to end up with 3 little pieces that are 1 1/2 by 4 each. So now I will show you how I made the 7 different cards. So now that we have all our papers cut, all we're going to do is simply adhere them to a card base. So you can choose any card base you like. I just chose the white because it went with the little white polka dots that I have on here. And you're simply just going to adhere all the pieces. Now I did adhere some of these already. But when you adhere them, one of the things that I try to do is just leave a little 1/4 inch frame around the card as I adhere it. So just like that. So I have 6 of them that are the full 5 1/4 by 4. And then I have these 3 little pieces that I'm just going to secure onto the card just like this. Okay? And the nice thing about the Stampin' Up! Paper is that it's has a design on each side. So when I go to adhere this, I want to play around with maybe having a different design in the middle, such as that. Or I could just simply leave it this way and just have all the same pattern, whichever way that you prefer. For this particular card, I did use the other design, so I will show you that, how that looks. So I'm just going to adhere these. And there you go. Just like that. Okay, so now we have our 7 different card bases. So now I'm going to show you what you can do with them. Now I'm not going to stamp all of these for you because I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with stamping. So I'm really just going to tell you a little bit about what I have on each of the cards. So the first card, I just took a regular card base, one of these card bases, and I just cut a 1 inch by 4, so this is 4, cut a 1 by 4 inch strip, and then just simply stamped one of the beautiful sentiments from the Painted Petals stamp set. Stamped that on there, and then I just glued this on and added a little butterfly. Pretty simple. The next one, I did pretty much the same thing. Took another one of the card bases like this, and I put a little doily, a little paper doily on it. Just put a little bit of tape behind the doily. And then I stamped the same sentiment that I just used, the "You are amazingly amazing." And then I punched it out. I punched the sentiment out with this decorative label punch. And then again, I just embellished it with a little butterfly. The third card I put together is again using one of these big pieces of designer paper. And then I just cut a little mat. Now I did use 2 different colors, actually 3 on this card. I used some black for the writing. But the other colors are Pear Pizzazz, in case you're wondering. And then So Saffron or So Saffron, or let's just call it light yellow. I used light yellow for the flowers and also to just kind of mat out the cards. So this particular piece is cut at 4 1/4 by 3, and then the white piece is cut a 1/4 inch shorter. So it's 4 by 2 3/4. And I just simply stamped some of the fun images in the stamp set on the white piece and adhered it to the card. The next one I did, this one I used the Elegant Butterfly and the Bitty Butterfly punches, and if you haven't seen these are probably, I would say, the most popular punches, at least with my stamping friends. I think we all have them. But what you're going to do with this particular card is you're just going to cut a piece of that light yellow paper, and you're going to cut it to 2 inches by 4, okay? And then I will show you how I did this. All I did was just slide my paper into my punch, and I just punched out the butterflies. And you can just punch them in a random fashion. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then they get adhered to the card. And then I used some scrap pieces of paper just to punch out the little bitty butterflies, and then I adhered them right in the center of the card, as you can see. And then I stamped a little sentiment and cut that out, punched that out, I should say, with the 1 1/4 inch circle punch. That's it, and then you just adhere it to your card. For the next one, again, I used another piece of paper, a larger matted piece of paper like I did on one of the previous cards. This particular mat is, the yellow piece is 4 by 3, so the inner piece is a 1/4 inch shorter, so it's 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. And then I simply just stamped some of those beautiful images on here in the 2 different colors that I've been using, and then again I put a little thank you on it. So again, I used up another one of these card bases for this. And then for this particular card, which is the last card that I made using the last piece, the last 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece. For this one, again, I just cut out this white piece right here is cut out to 2 by 4, so it's a 2 by 4 inch piece. And I stamped some fun little things from the stamp set onto it. And then I just simply wrapped a little piece of ribbon, and I can show you how I did that. I really just put some adhesive on the ribbon, laid it on my 2 inch piece, and just wrapped it around and taped it onto the back, just like that. So once you do your stamping that you see here, then you can add this little ribbon and then add a couple little pearls or something that you'd like to embellish it with. And then of course you can use up those butterflies. Now the great thing about this card that I showed you, when you punch out the butterflies, when you punch out those outlines, you can then use those butterfly pieces on your other cards so that you don't waste them. All right, so that takes care of those, all 6 of those cards that have the full sheet of DSP on it. So for this last card, I used this final sheet, the final 3 pieces of the designer series paper. I adhered those like I showed you to the card base. And then I decided to add a cute little tag. So this tag is actually a piece of yellow paper cut to 3.5 by 2, and it slides very nicely into the scallop tag topper punch, and it punches this cute little tag topper here on your cardstock. So once you have your tag punched out, you can embellish it with a little bit of ribbon, and then I also embellished it with one of the thank yous and some of the beautiful flowers that are in the Painted Petals stamp set. And of course, you know, a couple little pearls. So that's really it. You have, you know, a total of, like I said, 7 different cards that you can cut with 1 piece of designer paper. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to cut the paper. You know, you can play this video as much as you need to, so that you can figure out how to cut your paper and how to put your projects together. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and thanks for watching.